Right, as the Easter weekend approaches, many people are preparing to travel to different destinations. Last year, due to stringent lockdown regulations, churches had to shut their doors and could not partake in the Easter celebrations as they usually would do. But then let's talk more about events such as church services during the Easter weekend. We're joined by the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana. Thank you so much and good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon and thank you for having us.
Let's take a look at the year 2020 up until now and how the church has been affected by stringent lockdowns and, of course, the spread of COVID-19, as many people were feeling that the church was part of, the acceleration of the spread of COVID-19 and regarded as a super spreader.
It's been a year. And I think that the first thing we should do is to recognize the resilience of South Africans over this time. It's been a very difficult time economically, as well as in each of the families. They have experienced a lot of depression, lots of loss of income, as well as, in some cases, the increase of gender-based violence. So we have lived through a difficult time in the past year. But I would not say that the churches were super spreaders. I would probably say funerals were super spreaders. And in most times, churches were very disciplined. I mean, there was a case in the Free State right at the beginning. But I think after that, most churches were able to learn very quickly how differently to manage their services. But I think that funerals have been a great difficulty because they are beyond the matter of the church service. They involve feeding, they involve all the emotional exchanging of hugs, as well as, of course, the sitting together, people planning, and all those things lead to the infection rate going very, very wide. So I think the difficulty has been, as far as the expansion is concerned, that the churches have not been the source of this, but funerals have been, as well as the social behavior of people and the way people live in their neighborhoods.
So now many people are crossing their fingers about what government would say when it announces perhaps a stricter lockdown regulation for the Easter weekend. What's your expectation? Most
churches have appealed to government, and that applies to not just the South African Council of Churches, but a lot, in fact, just about all the churches, as well as other religious faiths, like the Muslims have made the same request, that can we have double the value of the space that for the worship space, and most more small churches actually can do very well with a limit of about 500. If you say 500 square meters and half of that would be 250 people, most churches could survive with that. But there are big churches, mega churches, that really have invested not only in 6,000 seaters, but also have invested in the equipment and the capacity to manage the COVID compliance in that environment. For those churches, the request has been that they must be allowed up to 1,000 people in a mega church of 6,000 seaters. 1,000 people are a sixth of that space. And in a church that is fairly capable of managing 6,000 people, it's a small matter to manage 1,000 people social distance. So that's been the request. But otherwise, churches are broadly very law abiding, and we really have developed our own guidelines, what we call norms and standards, through which we manage to make sure that there is no a spread of the virus in our congregations. And I think that actually is statistically correct. It can be proven.
So what are the concerns that the church would like to raise with government? Throughout this afternoon, I've been speaking to various sectors and they were lamenting lack of consultation. So from your side, what you are saying gives the impression that there isn't an understanding of the nitty-gritties of such, especially when you talk about mega churches. I have seen on television one of the churches that has a 6,000 seater capacity only having about 100 people. So how do you then put forward your argument to convince government to actually pay attention to detail and think otherwise?
Well, just over a week ago, the president had an audience with religious leaders. And that's how I know that across the board, religious leaders are saying the same thing. But I can tell you that as far as the South African Council of Churches is concerned, both last year and this year, we set up a specific task team that looks at how we commit ourselves to what they call the 3Ds, the drive to drive down the infection rate. And we do this in a number of ways by making sure we've got norms and standards that are being followed in all our congregations to make sure. That's why I can say with confidence that our congregations are not super spreaders. But we've gone beyond that at this time. When we met 3 weeks ago, our task team then went beyond. When we were looking at Easter, we said we do not want congregations to gather in one place. But usually that happens. The various churches within the same ambit of a circuit or something like that, they will come together in the major church. We'll say, no, that must not happen this time. They must stay where they are in the various places. You can have a rotation of services. The pastor will go around. Secondly, we've said, beyond the services themselves, we must make sure that we tell our congregations to do certain things like avoid having a birthday party. And that instead of having a birthday party where you invite friends, just have a cake with the people that you live with at home. And I mean, I can speak for myself. I'm supposed to be one of the negotiators in a Malobolo event. And I've had to say, I'm sorry, we can't do this. It's supposed to be in April because the churches have said, let's persuade our congregations to stay away from things that would normally we would be doing socially that are potential for spreading the virus. And so, obviously, if you have a Malobolo event, they're going to slaughter, and they're going to people are going to sit together and eat and drink. Those things have to be avoided. That's nothing to do with the churches. It has to do with congregations and social behavior. And we're trying to promote that as part of our contribution to make sure that we keep the infection rate low. We are committed to that. And so I know we can't persuade the government more because the government also gets advised by the scientists who think differently about this, and that's the story.
All right, Bishop, we look forward to speaking to you after the announcement has been made to check if it resonates well with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.